Thank you, Louise, and welcome everyone to OTF Connect. Thank you for giving of your time to join us tonight. It's good to see returning faces, and I'm beginning to recognize names here. So, Alma, Jeff, welcome. I'm Sirius Gerham, facilitator and coordinator of the OTF Professional Development Project. I'm delighted to welcome Katie Cole, who will be facilitating tonight's webinar on pop culture resources for teaching the digital teen. I had the pleasure of working with Katie in 2010 when she was a key presenter at the OTF Media Violence Conference and a member of our panel at that conference. As a result of the amount of work that Katie has done in the area of media literacy, she was nominated and received the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching. So congratulations for that, Katie.
Thanks.
I'd like to pass it on to you now, Katie, and please tell us more how you're involved in the area of media literacy and the work that you do in the classroom.
Great, thank you so much. Hopefully everybody can hear me. My name's Katie Cole. I'm an English teacher. I specialize in media literacy, and I work closely with the CAMH Center for Prevention Science and the Center for Research and Education on Violence Against Women and Children. And for those organizations and a variety of other organizations, what I do is I try to create a lot of resources for parents and teachers and students on the topic of media safety and education. And really, my goal for this evening is just to share with you all of the resources and things that I use in my classroom, because I know when I go to a PD session, I just want stuff. I just want people to give me something that I can go into my classroom and then use the next day. So that's kind of my goal, is to give you as much as I possibly can. And I guess if I were to give you a little mantra, my mantra when it comes to media literacy is with great sort of digital power comes great responsibility. And if you know Spider-Man at all, that's directly from Spider-Man. So I think as teachers, it's our job and it's our responsibility to help our students kind of harness this technological power and use it for good. So that's kind of what I want to do today, is give you a whole bunch of resources and teach you a little bit about our students and what they're into. Before I guess I jump in here, I wanted to let you know that all of my videos and resources and media moments and links and all that stuff is on my Pinterest page. I've got the QR code up here and the link to my Pinterest page. I'm kind of a Pinterest addict. You can give me a little thumbs up or a check mark if anybody else is on Pinterest. If not, don't worry. I'm not really cool enough to have my own website, so I do use Pinterest a lot, and so all of my resources are up here, and I think Louise is going to post a lot of stuff too for us, so you can go back to refer to that. What I'd like to do is try to organize the evening into these three different categories here. So the first part of the presentation, we're going to be looking at our students' digital lives, kind of examining what they're doing in their media worlds. And I guess the next part is to look at how we can help them decode and analyze their media. And then the third part is, this is where I want to share all of my favorite pop culture moments and resources that we can use in the classroom. So I'm going to get us started off here. Maybe we can do a little fun interacting. These little bottom icons that I have here, one is called Vine. You'll see Vine there. I don't know if anybody else knows the other three. There's one that's got a little face on it, and one that looks like an S, and another one that has a little phone. Just to kind of see where people are with their media use. I don't know if anyone uses any of these, but I don't know if anybody knows the name of this one. Ooh, this one's close, not Stumble Upon. This one's actually, this one here is called Shazam. I don't know if you've heard of Shazam. It's kind of a fun one. If you want to know the name of a song and the artist, you can use this app and it will listen and it will tell you the name and the artist information, which is pretty cool. Ooh, what's the fourth one? Are you cheating?
I'm actually not. I do have that on my phone. Also, longer it's been replaced with a different one that you have later in your presentation.
This one's great. This one's WhatsApp, and it's a mobile messaging service, and it's free. And a lot of my students use this one because there's no limit on how often you can use it. And this one here, a lot of my students use. This one's called Facetune, and they had to teach me about this one. But what you can do, it's basically Photoshop for your phone. So it's such a great tool if you want to, fix yourself up after you take that photo. Anyways, that's one that the kids are using right now too. All right. So,
sorry to interrupt. I have a feeling you were using your pointer tool to point at the different images, so we couldn't see
I gotta hold it down.
You just, just click it. Click it and leave it. If you click it, it leaves a little image of the pointer where you want to point, and then you move to the next spot and click again.
Yeah, that would be, I think I'm the only rookie here. I think everybody else is an expert. Really, they should be giving, the workshop here, but I'll do my best.
This is a test.
We'll keep going here. This is my daughter, Isla. This was her at 10 months. She's about 20 months right now, and I just found it so difficult, and I empathize with a lot of people who are struggling to keep up with technology, because when I was off on mat leave last year, I came back and I felt completely out of touch what was happening in my students' lives, and it took a really long time for me to get connected again. And even though I might be preaching all of these things about media and that our kids, we need to watch what they're watching, and it doesn't mean that I'm perfect, because here's my 10-month-old and she's got my cell phone. At 10 months old, she was actually able to find her own her favorite app on my phone, and she could even tap and swipe at 10 months old. I'm a terrible mother, I feel like sometimes, but I'm still learning, and hopefully she's kind of my inspiration when it comes to doing all of this research and making sure parents are keeping their kids safe, because I want her to be safe too. Now, I think there is a place where we have to kind of draw the line when it comes to our kids and our media use, and I think this is it for me. This is where I think we should be drawing the line maybe. This is called the CTA Digital 2-in-1 Potty, and this is real. This isn't fake. This is a real thing that you can buy online. Your kids can actually learn how to poop and text at the same time, which I think is pretty incredible. But I kind of use this little picture here as an example, to articulate that just because our kids are exposed to a lot of media, it doesn't mean that they're experts in it. Just because they can text and poop at the same time doesn't mean that they're more technologically advanced. I love that. Hope it doesn't take selfies. Yeah, hopefully not. So I just wanted to take a look at how much time our students are actually engaging with their media. And if you take a look at this chart, it's pretty overwhelming. They're actually spending, if you add up sort of the hours here, it's like 11 or 12 hours a day with media. Of course, this is spread out. So if you actually condense it, because they're multitasking, it's around 8 hours a day that they're spending with media. And that's a lot of time that they're spending with technology. And the scary part about this is this statistic doesn't even include texting. So you can imagine how much more time you would add to that if you included their texting. And what I like to do with my students in the first few weeks of class, with my media studies class I do this, but we're also running a student pilot project right now with grade 7 and 8 students, and this is one of the activities that they have to do. You can do it as a journal. They can, record how many hours or minutes they're spending with media each day. Or what we did is we just had Post-it notes. So for every hour that they used, Facebook or television or movies or whatever media it was, they had to write down their name on a Post-it, and then they compiled all of their Post-its as a class. And you can kind of see at the very far end on my blackboard there, some of the kids, their media use was right off the chart. And it was just a really great visual for them to realize, how much time they are spending with media. And if you wanted to look at some of the statistics here, 1/3 of students, about 35% of them, are worrying that they're spending too much time online. So, our kids are aware that they are maybe on it too much, and maybe it's even bordering on addiction for them. And the good news, I think, is that 94% of the students, they are choosing to go offline and to do other things. But the problem is this nomophobia thing. This is an actual new definition in the dictionary. This is a new word, nomophobia. And what it is, it's when you're you feel afraid to be without your mobile device, which is kind of scary. I know I felt that. Sometimes if I've left my phone at home, I feel like for the rest of the day stressed out that people have been trying to get a hold of me and I can't answer some of my texts or emails and things like that. And what will happen is the kids, even though they do choose to go offline and do other things, they do return back to their devices because they're afraid that they're going to miss out on something. So it is really difficult for them to find a balance and to have that impulse control when it comes to their media. And this kind of links into this whole idea of multitasking. A lot of students in my class will tell me that they are multitasking, and in high school kids are allowed to have their cell phones in the hallways, and in a lot of classroom and instructional spaces they're supposed to turn them off and put them away. And you always catch the kid who's texting under their desk, or I had a student the other day who had one earbud in their ear and the other ear didn't have an earbud in, and I asked them to take the earbud out, and they said, well, I'm still listening to you, I can still hear you out of my one ear, and they claimed that they were multitasking. And so then, of course, I launched into this whole discussion on what is multitasking versus what Linda Stone coined as continual partial attention. And Linda Stone, this woman, she actually worked for Microsoft and Apple, so I think she knows what she's talking about. And she defines multitasking as, doing these manageable tasks where nothing is actually going to suffer in your work. So for example, it's like two menial, really easy tasks that you're doing at once. So maybe it's talking on the phone and dusting, even though I would never dust ever. But those are two pretty easy tasks that you can manage. And what our kids are doing, though, she argues, is that it's called continual partial attention, and they're distracted. It's kind of this addictive behavior. And what they do is they'll do like a little bit of homework on the computer, and then they'll text a friend, and then they'll update their status, and then they'll watch a little bit of TV, and they kind of rotate through all of those things and try to do them all at once. And they're not really doing anything effectively. So when your students tell you that they're multitasking, you can tell them that it's actually continual partial attention and it's not efficient. So what happens when students become attached to their technology? Well, it's kind of two words here. It's zombie apocalypse, and it might look something like this. This is what in our high school hallways it looks like when everyone's walking to their class. And students themselves are saying that, they are distracted by their cell phones. So I thought this study was really interesting, and maybe I'll just go up here and I can change our polling to our multiple choice one here. And you guys can participate with this question here. What percentage of high school students said that they would like to use cell phones as an educational tool? Was it 98% for A? Was it 27%? For B, 46% C, or 70% D? What do you guys think here? I got a D, some Ds. I'll give you a second to see if anybody else wants to. We've got a C up there. And this kind of shocked me when I looked at this study, but I mean, to be fair, it was done by Ontario student trustees, so these are pretty good kids, and they have a pretty good awareness of their media use. And the answer is actually B. It was 27%, because they thought it was distracting, and they knew that if their texts, if they were being sent texts, that they wouldn't be able to resist looking at it, and so they didn't think that they would be able to do their schoolwork with their cell phones. So I thought it was kind of interesting. And I think this is crazy that kids are actually sending or receiving about 3,365 text messages a month. That's pretty amazing. And what I like to do is I like to use this. This can be one of your resources you can use in your classroom to kind of start the discussion about media and their management. And it's called the video that we're going to see here. I think Louise is going to put up the link for us. It's by Coca-Cola, and it's actually called the Social Media Guard. So you can take a look at that. It's just a few minutes long.
Sorry, yes, I've got it right here. I'm going to drop this link in, and it is a YouTube video, folks, so it will start right away for you. The volume might be a little loud, so be prepared for that. And Katie, you want them to watch the whole video?
Yep, it'll go right to the end. That'll be great.
Okay, so when you come back, we'll switch it back to green check marks, and you can let us know that you're finished.
I don't know if everybody can hear me now again, but I kind of want to buy a whole class set of these things just to give to all of my students. But yeah, they actually do sell these little social media guards, which I thought it was pretty cute. I'm not sure how much they sell for, but I did check out their website and they did have them out there. But I just really like to use this video as a little introduction to the idea of what's positive with our media and what's negative. You know, how are we using it, and is it interfering with our lives?
I'd like to pop us back to the whiteboard, but I'm just checking to see if everybody else's video finished.
Yep.
I think we'll assume we're okay, and we'll go back.
Great. This I thought was really interesting even for adults too, and it's all about backlit devices and how it affects our sleep and our learning, because I know that I like to read my iPad all the way up until the minute I go to sleep if I'm reading a magazine or a book or something on it. It's actually the artificial light exposure, you know, the backlit device is actually bad for you. What it does is it suppresses the release of that sleep promoting hormone, melatonin. It will enhance your alertness, and it will actually shift your sort of sleep cycle to a later hour, and it makes it more difficult to fall asleep and even stay asleep. So all of us, I guess now we have to turn off all of our phones, and they suggest 2 hours before bed. I don't know, because if our kids are spending, you know, 8 to 10 hours on it every day, they're obviously using it right up until the time they go to bed too. And in this recent study, it said that actually 39% of students will sleep with their cell phones, and 60% of them will either send or receive messages in the middle of the night. If you're interested in a whole bunch of these statistics, that's all I do, I feel, is do a ton of research on U.S. statistics and media use and Canadian use. And the most recent one right now is by Media Smarts. It was just released, I think, in 2013, and it's the third phase of this research project. And they have these awesome infographics that you can use in your class. This one is about their life online. And the next one I'm going to show you is about their online privacy and their online publicity. And if you look at the whole infographic, and I guess if you wanted to summarize the whole thing, it's really interesting because students and kids will actually do more to protect their reputation than their information, which is a little bit scary at times. But I've used these infographics in my literacy course, and it would also be really great with teaching numeracy too. So if you go onto the Media Smarts website, they've got those infographics there for you. And I love Media Smarts. I don't know if anyone's been on this before, this website, but you can search lessons by grade and by content and province, and they also have online educational games and e-tutorials, and I kind of like to call this this website the Media Teacher's Mothership, so it's pretty outstanding. just continuing on with their digital lives and what they're doing right now. Some of the most popular things are Snapchat. And Snapchat, basically what you can do is you can have a photo conversation with somebody. You can take a picture, you can send it to them with a caption, they can read it, but the sender can actually set a specific time, and you can say, okay, this person that I'm sending it to can only look at this photo for 10 seconds, and then Snapchat says it will disappear, so it will kind of self-destruct. But the problem with Snapchat is, as we know, nothing that you post online is impermanent. It's there forever. And so what happened was users figured out how to actually capture and store these snaps. And you can even download apps that are called, the one is called Snap Save. And you can do a screen capture of the image. And there are even Snapchat leaked communities that they post some of these intimate photos and everything. So this is where we get into the issue of sexting. And kids thought they were, this was a safe place for them to send some sexy or provocative photos back and forth. But really what happened is those pictures ended up being saved. I guess a little bit more fear-mongering here. Some other ones that they really like. These anonymous apps. Some of the most popular ones are Ask FM, Spring Me, and Cue Me. Now, Ask FM, what you do, and a lot of these, what they're like is you actually ask a question, and people can answer that question. Users in the community, they can answer those questions anonymously. So I've been on it. And there are a lot of really creepy sexual posts, and bullying is a major concern, and it's Ask FM has had a lot of press because it's been linked to several suicides of teens in the UK. Cue Me is a little frightening because there's no age restriction, there's no login required, and it's an app that can be downloaded, so users can't be banned, and again, it's all anonymous. So you can imagine the kind of harassment and cyberbullying that can happen on those sites. I'm just going to gloss over these ones, but you can kind of get the idea. These are some of the other popular ones my students are on. It's Whisper. It's just like a confessional app. You can go on and just state that you've been cheating on your boyfriend, and it's completely anonymous. Same thing with Secret, Speak Freely. And I tell my students, I tend not to say, I tend not to block things or tell them to eliminate their media, but this is one thing I think they can do without, and it's Omegle. And what you can do, it's an anonymous chat, so you can go on, and Omegle will actually hook you up and pair you up with a stranger where you can talk. And there's no registration required, and a lot of users of it will actually link to porn websites and things like that. And if kids open attachments, there's a whole bunch of issues when it comes to installing viruses and things like that on the computer. So a little scary. And I mean, this links into our cyberbullying statistics that we have here. Over half of teens have been bullied online, and 1 in 3 have experienced cyber threats, and only 1 in 10 teens tells a parent. So a lot of the work that I do has to do with awareness and teaching kids how to report and how to feel good about that and be safe online. I personally don't like the term cyberbullying. I got the chance to do a few workshops and presentations with Carol Todd. I don't know if you know Amanda Todd, the BC teen who committed suicide because she was being sexually exploited online. I've done a few presentations with her mom, Carol Todd, and we kind of agreed on this, that cyberbullying has become too overused of a term. So she kind of agreed with me, and I agreed with her that I like the term digital abuse or cybercrime because it just sounds a little bit more serious. And what I've done here is I've just splashed up a whole bunch of different terms that kind of fall under that category of digital abuse or cybercrime. And I won't go through all of these, but trolling is kind of where people follow you around online and post mean things on your YouTube's comment section or on your Facebook wall or wherever you're hanging out in social media. And flaming is sort of when you escalate things in a discussion online, if you're texting back and forth or commenting on something and you're trying to add add fuel to the fire and trying to get somebody angry and sort of encouraging them and exacerbating sort of the argument. But there's a whole bunch of other things that people are doing online that fall under this category of cyberbullying, but I kind of like to use a different term for that. I mean, if I could do a whole workshop on cyberbullying, and I won't get into too much of that, but this is a terrific resource. This is MTV's A Thin Line, and what they do is on this website, they've got some terrific resources for teachers and students, and my favorite is to go through this quiz that they offer for students, and we do it as a class, and it gives you scenarios, and the students can then determine what online behavior in that scenario, if it's on the line or over the line. So it's a really great discussion starter in classrooms. So I really enjoy that one. If you want to talk about cybercrime, the Government of Canada has this really slick new campaign called Stop Online Hate, or Stop Hating Online rather. And this is kind of a screenshot of what the website looks like. And the category I really like is what are the possible legal consequences? Because when I showed my students, you know, according to the criminal code, so these are some of the things that you can be charged with when it comes to your online behavior. They were pretty shocked. And I thought that was a really important thing for them to see and understand. So Get Cyber Safe, if you just type that into Google too, you'll get to the Government of Canada website. And stopbullying.gov is the sort of the US version, and it's pretty neat too. It's got lots of great information and resources as well for you. I think if possible, Louise is going to show us the one public service announcement that the Government of Canada has just come out with recently, and it's really neat because there are two PSAs that they've put out. One is aimed at parents, and it's called Pass It On. And then the one that we're going to watch is called Consequences. And it makes for a really interesting comparison in study and filming techniques and advertising appeals, because you can really tell, you know, they use kind of like scary music for the parent version, and then they use this kind of like upbeat, cool music for the teen version with kind of a shock ending that kids might like. And on the website, they actually provide transcripts for the entire ad, so it'll tell you what is said in the ad, and I really like printing that off and using it as an example for my students when they're writing and creating their own PSA. So it's a really cool thing too. So I don't know if Louise can get us
I am going to drop that one. So this is the Consequences ad that Katie mentioned, but 2 links up in the chat is the other ad, the parent one, the Pass It On. So here we go. It's another,
Great.
Well, I'm not sure if this video will start right away, folks. If it doesn't start right away, there'll be some controls there. Just find the play button and go ahead and click it for yourself. If you have any trouble, click on the link in the chat. Katie, I just see the link I put in here. It's got a secondary link a little further down that says watch the ads.
Yeah,
so
I can get to that.
Yes, so let us go to that.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm clicking on it. Let me know if it's changing at all for you guys. Nothing's happening. Of course not, because we want something to happen.
But that's okay. This is the website. It's actually, it's really good. So all you have to do is go watch the ads, and then it's got the 2 different public service announcements there for you. And then right below them it has the transcript. So the Government of Canada has put a lot of money into this, and so I'm sure they would love it if you used it. And it is a really good reference for us. So, oh, sorry, I guess we could go back to the slides then.
I do just want to mention, as Syria pointed out, if you click on the link that's in the chat, it takes you to an actual browser window that is the site, and you can go straight to the bottom and click the watch the ads there, and it is right there, Katie, if you want to try that
okay,
instead.
great.
I don't think the videos have their own specific URL.
I'm not really able to get mine going. I don't know about everybody else.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to try and drop it in the web tour again just because I can see it on my computer in the browser, so I'm going to try it one more time. Oh, that is weird. You know what? No, their URL gets masked once it's dropped into the web tour. So this may be something that you guys get to follow up on later.
Yeah, like Jeff was saying there, he's seen it on TV, and they do play it quite frequently, so hopefully you'll get a chance at some point to watch it. But it's just a really good one, I think, for your classes, and it's neat to see the difference between the parent one and the teen one. So, all right. Okay, so I'm going to get into some of the questions that we can ask of our media. So if you're ever teaching a media kind of literacy lesson, these are some of the skills and strategies that I use. And usually when I talk to my students about, you know, we're going to look at media and how it influences us, immediately they say, well, media doesn't influence me. And my rebuttal to this is advertising agencies, they're not going to spend $4 million on something that is not going to influence you. They spend that much because they understand the power that media has over our thoughts and our behaviors. So I like to show them this little you know, screenshot that for the Super Bowl, I mean, for 30 seconds they're spending $4 million on an ad. So of course it does influence us in some way. And here are some of the questions that I encourage students to ask whenever they're watching or engaging with any type of media. I'm not going to go through all of them, but this one's from the Center for Media Literacy. And I don't know if I've got a link or anything there, but if you go to their website, they've got, yeah, there it is. Thanks, Louise. It's got a whole bunch of different questions that you can use. And the Association for Media Literacy is really good too. They have the 8 key concepts as well that you can apply to any decoding and analyzing of media. And then there's NAML, the National Association for Media Literacy Education. They've got this list, which is a little bit more comprehensive, and I tend to use with more of my senior students, and it's really great too. And this one is by Ken Pettigrew. He's a teacher, and he's got a fabulous website that I've listed up at the top here, themedialiterateteacher.weebly.com. And what he's done is he's created these posters for all different divisions, so for primary, junior, intermediate, and senior. And what he's done is he's taken this concept, it's called the Eddy-Dick triangle, and it's basically a framework that helps individuals examine media messages. And for each side of the triangle, he's listed a whole bunch of questions, which is it's a really great poster to use with your class. I like that one. In Thames Valley, the Thames Valley District School Board, where I work, we kind of came up with this, which is the condensed form, because I was teaching students of all different ages and grades and everything, and I found it really difficult to use, you know, those really long, wordy questions. So what we did is we put it down, we got it down to these 4 concepts, and we call it the 4 C's. So in any media, they have to look at how something is constructed. So looking at lighting, costume, you know, choice of actors, those sorts of things, how something is constructed. Then they have to look at the codes, and that's kind of like the symbols, like, you know, what does a red rose represent, or, you know, dark sunglasses make somebody look rebellious. So they have to examine what codes exist. Then they have to look at creeds. What's the overall message or value that's trying to be, that's being communicated in that advertisement or TV show, whatever it is. And then commercial, we're trying to find out what's actually being sold or promoted or endorsed. So we'll do a little practice one here, and I'll show you what my students came up with. We took this poster from The Hunger Games. This is the second movie, the Catching Fire one. And we looked at the poster, and they had to tell me, you know, what was constructed, what are some of the codes, the creeds, and the commercials that exist. So this is kind of what they came up with, that PETA, the main character here, all you have to do is kind of describe the ad itself. So PETA's positioned behind Katniss. He appears to be taller than she is. They look very stoic. They're looking off into the distance. She's holding roses. So basically it's just sort of describing the scene. And then they had to examine the colors. You know, well, why did they use all white? And why are the petals kind of falling from the sky? So they decided that the use of the color white, it made it look like it was a wedding, especially with her holding the flowers like that. And it kind of shows their innocence. The color white can represent their innocence. Then they came up with the creed. They thought that victory isn't always happy because down below in the text it says this is the victory tour. And they don't look very happy about it. And they also came up with this idea that men are more powerful because he's a little bit bigger and he's kind of in a protective stance when it comes to how they're positioned together here. And the commercial is pretty obvious in this one. They're promoting the Hunger Games and Catching Fire. So that's kind of a really simple walkthrough of the 4 C's and how you can apply it to basically any media. Like you could do that with a website. You could do it for any other advertisement and a movie. But again, we have to ask some of these additional questions, like what's going on behind the screen? Because if you look here, this is Josh Hutcherson, the character that plays PETA, and in real life he obviously is a great deal shorter than Jennifer Lawrence. Of course, you also have to imagine that she's probably wearing huge heels too, but that's a pretty big difference if you go back and forth to look at this image and what they're like in real life. And then we have to ask, you know, why would the director decide to have him positioned and appear to be taller than Jennifer Lawrence? What does that say about our social expectations when it comes to male and female relationships? So my students really like that comparison too when we did some media analysis. Some other questions we have to ask are, what are the lyrics in our songs? You can use that Shazam app that I was talking about earlier. I'm terrible. I never know what the lyrics are to songs. I can never hear them very clearly. So I use the app and I'll hold it up to my radio and it'll tell me what artist it is and what song is playing, and then I can link to and look up what the lyrics are. And when I did that with, you know, last year's huge summer hit, this song Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke, I was pretty shocked at what was in the lyrics, and I was pretty disgusted too. So right before one of our school dances, I actually did this lesson in my media studies class, and I had the students look into the lyrics and decode them and tell me what he's actually saying and what the creed is, what the message is. And it was pretty terrible. I'm going to read some of the lyrics here, and I'm sorry, I apologize in advance because they're pretty graphic, but he says, do it like it hurt, what you don't like work. And when my students analyzed this, they said, well, it kind of sounds like women are supposed to enjoy pain during sex and that pain is a part of sex. That's pretty horrible of a message to have in your song. And then he goes on and he says, the way you grab me, you must want to get nasty. And some of the girls said, well, that's kind of blaming the victim. Just because, you know, she dances maybe provocatively on the dance floor doesn't mean that she wants to have sex with him. And then it gets even worse because he gets into some sexual abuse. He even says, you know, that he doesn't smack, he says, nothing like your last guy, he's too square for you. He doesn't smack your ass and pull your hair like that. And then he goes on, he says, I'll give you something to tear your ass into. Now this is like the hit song of the summer. It got tons of radio play. And the only word that they bleep out on the radio is the word ass. And so my students were pretty outraged. They had no idea that that was what the song was actually about. And it was basically, it's about non-consensual sex and sexual abuse. And so my students actually went down during the dance and they told the DJ to take it off of the the playlist. So I was really proud of them for being able to analyze their media, understand what it means, and make some positive decisions when it came to their media use. So you might not want to use that one in your classroom. It was pretty intense. I had a really mature group of students, obviously, but Shazam, again, is a great tool to use to look at lyrics. Some other questions we have to ask is, why are you posting this? So before any student puts anything on social media, I ask them to, think about it first. Why are you posting this? And 91% of teens are posting these selfies, and I can't believe selfies is actually in the Oxford Dictionary now. But most of them are posting selfies, and quite regularly. And a lot of times they think that it's a really cute picture that they're taking of themselves. But I say, why are you taking this? Why are you taking this picture? And what does this say about you, this picture? You might think you look really cute and kind of, sexy, whereas other people, what will they think? Maybe they think you look kind of slutty, right? Really, I ask them to think about why they're sharing it. Is it altruistic? Is it to share an experience, or is it more to brag about something? And what does that say about you? And thinking about their online identity, because like we know, if it's out there forever. Another question I like to ask my students is, who's profiting from these things? Kim Kardashian sent out this tweet and made thousands and thousands of dollars just off of one tweet because she said that she was using this special lip balm when she was pregnant. I have no idea what pregnancy lips are, by the way. I was pregnant. I don't ever remember having pregnancy lips. Anyhow, she used this specific lip gloss, and she got paid a ton of money for it. So it's important for our kids to know whether or not these tweets and photos and status updates and things are happening organically or if it's endorsed. The most popular website to date, according to that Media Smarts survey, is YouTube, and a lot of kids are posting a lot of videos, and sure, it's a great place to share, and it doesn't always mean it's bad stuff. Kids are really motivated to post because it's kind of like a drug. You have followers, you get hits and stars and likes and comments and retweets, and you'll make the front page, and you can get sponsored. And you can even be featured on the TV show Ridiculousness if your video is ridiculous enough. But I think it's really important for students, again, to know what's the motivation behind posting this. Is it financial? Is it to get that attention? Is it to get that notoriety? And then the second question of that is, what are the consequences of posting this video? I don't know if you guys have heard of the trend of car surfing right now. What teenagers are doing is they're actually taking video of themselves riding on the top of cars. So they'll have somebody driving, or they'll get out of the car after driving it themselves while it's still moving, and they'll get on top of a car and they'll video it and they'll post it on YouTube. And I think if you want to look at some of the consequences of that, it's pretty obvious. But if you want a concrete example of what can happen, a 19-year-old Brampton man was just recently killed after a fall from a car after attempting a car surfing stunt. And the 16-year-old that was driving was charged with criminal negligence and dangerous driving causing death. If he's tried as an adult, the 16-year-old, he faces a maximum penalty of about 14 years in prison. That's kind of scary stuff. I just did a conference a little while ago for teacher librarians. I don't know if there are any teacher librarians in our session, but they wanted some resources that they could use where when they were teaching about source and authenticity when researching, they kind of wanted a fun little pop culture tidbit that they could use, a little lead-in. And so I gave them this one. This was, it was called The Dangers of Twerking, and it was a YouTube video that was put out, and it's a young girl who's twerking and dancing. She falls onto her table, and she has candles on her table, and her pants light on fire. And all these news outlets, reliable news sources like CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and Global News even, they were reporting on this like it was news. This girl had set herself on fire accidentally. It was, you know, the dangers of twerking. And I'm hoping that maybe this one will work for us if Louise can get this video up. We're going to stop the video if you get it to go here. You only have to watch 3 minutes in, and really it kind of exposes all of our you know, naivete, because it really was a whole hoax, this thing. So hopefully we can get this to go.
Okay, so I'm about to drop it in here, folks. Now, Katie, I see a note here. Is this the one you'd like people to stop watching at 3 minutes?
3 minutes, yeah.
Oh.
It goes on for a little while. You kind of get the gist after about 3 minutes.
Okie dokie, here it comes. I feel like the meanest person ever, but we went a little bit past the 3 minute mark, so I hope everyone's okay and got to the meat of it. And, and Katie, you can continue.
So the original video is really funny because it's just her and she lands on the couch with her pants on fire, and that's where the original video cuts. And then of course Jimmy Kimmel just revealed that the whole thing was just a huge hoax. And you know, it's kind of shame on us for believing that, and shame on some of those reliable news sources. And it was a great sort of teachable moment for me in my classroom. So here are some more pop culture moments, and I'm going to kind of give you another hoax one that you can use in your classes. But the rest are just, this is kind of like my highlight reel of some of my favorite pop culture moments in the last year or so. If any of you remember Back to the Future, I loved that movie when I was younger. In one of the movies, they said that there was this hoverboard, and they had Michael J. Fox riding this hoverboard. Well, recently there's been this video out that says that the hoverboard is now real technology. And they've even hired Tony Hawk, a pro skateboarder, to actually demonstrate how to use the hoverboard. And he promises that the future is now. And it was put online, and there was an actual website that went with it and everything, and people thought this was real, and they were all excited about this hoverboard. And of course it turned out to all be just a gigantic hoax, which was kind of disappointing for me, but also additionally really funny. The other one I haven't put in here, it's great, but I have on my Pinterest page, and one of my teacher librarian friends told me about this, and it was on the Discovery Channel in 2012, and it was called Mermaids, the Found Body, or the Body Found. And what they did is, it's a whole, it looks like a real documentary with, it looks like real scientists and real theories and everything, and it looks like they've actually found the skeleton of this mermaid. And you know, the first little while I watched this thing, I thought, what, this is ridiculous. And then about 30 minutes in, I started thinking, you know what? Mermaids might actually have been real. They may actually have existed, and it's really convincing. And it was shown on the Discovery Channel, but until you watch until the very end, there's a very small disclaimer that says it's docu-fiction, and it's such a great little teachable moment that you can use in your classrooms. The other one, this is another video. I think I only have 2 more videos left here, but one of the topics that we tend to address a lot in my phys ed classes and in my media classes and English classes is about the beauty industry and self-esteem and body image and those sorts of things. And this is a really great parody, and it's a fake ad that makes fun of the beauty industry. So Louise can hopefully get us set up on this one. And it's called the Photoshop Parody.
Okie dokie, let me just drop that one in here as well, and hopefully that'll...
You're so fast, you got the mermaid video and everything, all right.
I'm hoping I have the right Photoshop one. Here we go.
Photoshop by Adobe, yeah.
Sorry, I accidentally took...
Yeah, it looked like you had it, so that's good.
Here it comes again.
Okay, great. All right. I thought that one's, I think that's so funny. I love that video. Get back to our slides.
Yes, I was just thinking, I didn't see everyone's green check mark, but I forgot to remind you to put it there. But if you didn't finish the video, we've got all the links later for
Awesome.
later. I'm also just going to note that we're just seeing a bit of a lag for everybody right now, and hopefully that'll settle down in a moment. And let us know, though, if you're having any issues.
Great. Okay.
Oh, looks like everything's all cleared. Go ahead, Katie.
All right. If you want any more resources when it comes to, looking at body image issues and self-esteem, and Dove always has some great commercials that you've probably seen in the past, and their newest one's really good too, and it's called Real Beauty Sketches. And so what they did is I won't show you the video, but there's a whole commercial on this, and what they do is they've employed a forensic artist to draw pictures of people based on their descriptions of themselves. So the image on the left there that has the one with the long dark hair, that's how she has described herself, and then the forensic artist listens to someone else describe her, and then that's what he draws, and then he shows it to the person. This is what you think you look like, and this is what other people think you look like, and it's just a really amazing example. It's proof of how hard we are on ourselves, and we have to ask, is this sometimes a result of the beauty industry expectations and what we see in advertising? And yeah, I've seen the parody of the men too, where men describe themselves as Brad Pitt and George Clooney. It's hilarious. So it's a little kind of spoof of the Real Beauty one, which is great. Speaking about men, we tend to, I think, leave out guys when we talk about body image.
Katie, I just wanted to add something about the Dove Real Beauty campaign. One of our other presenters in another session was also talking about critical thinking and things along that line. And he brought up an interesting point that the parent company of Dove, which I forget which huge,
Unilever? Yeah, it's Unilever.
Yes, it's Unilever. That
Unilever.
In India, they manufacture, promote, and sell skincare products for women so that they can lighten their skin to be more beautiful and white-colored.
It's pretty hypocritical, I think, Unilever. Unilever also is the parent company of Axe. You know, the Axe body spray stuff. So on one hand, they're telling women that it's okay to, be yourself and be beautiful and accept all of your flaws. And then they have, half-naked women in bikinis flocking over, men and throwing themselves at them in Axe commercials. So it is a bit hypocritical. So I do have a bit of an issue with Dove in that respect, but I still do like some of their advertisements, unfortunately. When we talk about males and body image, we've got this ad, and it was for the Twilight series, where the heartthrob Taylor Lautner is on the left here, and this was the poster that they came out with for New Moon. I think that was the second movie. And it actually came to light after the fact that that's not even his body. They took a model's body and put Taylor Lautner's head on his body. So, which is really quite shocking, because I know Taylor Lautner's he's supposed to be in really good shape and everything, and I was shocked that they actually used a model's body for that. If you want to use advertisements like some of the ones that we just saw in your classroom, this website's fabulous. It's genderads.com. Now, I wouldn't tell your students to go to it because it's got a lot of explicit content, but you can go on, you can find ads. There are about 4,000 categorized ads, so if you want to see one that marginalizes women or it's a stereotype of men, they've got them all categorized there, and they've got thousands of images that you can choose from, so you don't have to sit at home and try to dig up old magazines and flip through them to find an ad to use. So it's a really great website. My students, the other day I showed this television show. It was an episode called The Power of Persuasion as a part of the National Geographic series called Brain Games. And it's all about how media can persuade us. And in the words of one of my students, he said that it just blew his mind. So it's really cool about how the different techniques that they use to persuade us to buy things. I like using a lot of positive media, and Ashton Kutcher is really huge on Twitter. So earlier on this year, he was given a Teen Choice Award, and he had a really terrific speech that he gave, and it's really great to use in your classroom. So you can check that one out. You can go online into YouTube, and you can watch his speech, and it's really outstanding. Online, one of the trends that's been happening is called neck nominations, and not a great thing, but what kids have been doing is they will challenge each other to drink an alcoholic beverage in a creative and sometimes escalating dangerous way. So one kid might take a shot, video himself, put it online, and then challenge his friends to one-up him. So then the next friend has to take 2 or 3 shots, and then the next friend after that has to take those shots while diving into a pool. And so you can imagine how it kind of escalates and gets out of control, and it's quite dangerous. And I like this example. It was in the news not too long ago, where these students, grade 12 guys, decided that these neck nominations were getting out of control and it was ridiculous. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to do something positive. So these are students from Kelowna, BC, and what they did is they went into a grocery store and they videoed themselves picking out essential items like water and food and razors and hygiene products and things like that. And then they went out onto the streets and actually gave them away to homeless people. And then they tagged all of their friends on Facebook, and they challenged them to do something positive in kind of that pay it forward spirit. I just thought that was a really great sort of social media moment. I really enjoy playing music videos and have those as teachable moments, and a lot of people are familiar with the group Macklemore and their video Same Love, which is a terrific piece on equality and acceptance. But I thought this was interesting. In the news, a teacher was actually suspended for showing the video in her class, and we looked at some of the articles that accompanied this one, and the students wrote an opinion piece on it, and it was really good too. This documentary, it's called, unfortunately it's hidden behind this beaver sign, but it's called Celebrity. And it's really neat. You can get it on iTunes, and I think you can order it through Amazon. what it does is it talks about the concept of grandicide. So we tend to, you know, in our schools talk about how we shouldn't put other people down, and we have all these anti-bullying initiatives in place. But when it comes to our celebrities, it seems to be sort of, you know, free game, that we can bash Lindsay Lohan, and I mean, years ago people went crazy and attacked Britney Spears, you know, and made fun of her. And now we're sort of attacking Justin Bieber. Like, we had 2 full nations making fun of this poor kid when our hockey teams were competing, and they put up this billboard. This is when Canada was playing the U.S., and it was "Loser keeps Bieber." And I think sometimes we forget that, you know, he's an 18-year-old kid. Sure, he makes lots of mistakes, but I don't know if it's okay that we make fun of our celebrities. So in this documentary, it's called Celebrity, and the concept of grandicide is that we as society, we like to build up people. You know, Justin Bieber's just a kid who is from Stratford who just plays guitar, you know, on the steps outside the theater, and so we build them up to be this huge icon, and then we love to rip them down, and that whole concept is called grandicide. It's kind of like homicide, but it's this idea of building somebody up and then tearing them down, and that documentary is just a really good one. This is a series of ads that have been out recently, and it's been put out by, you know, thinking about what you post, and thinking, you know, pondering before you post. And it's a really funny one. I don't know if you know James Lipton. He's the guy who does interviews on the Actors Studio, and he's kind of famous for his beard and how he's always stroking his beard in a contemplative way. So what he does in all these public service announcements is he actually, you know, talks to teens, and he says, you know, before you post that picture, you might want to think about it. And then he takes off his beard and he actually puts it on the kids' or teens' faces. And they're pretty weird and funny, and students tend to like those ones. So those are good ones to use in your class. Now, for the last part here, I'm just going to give you a whole bunch of websites. This is my highlight reel again of all of my favorite places to go when it comes to media safety and education. So the first one is WikiHow. I tend to, in my media studies class, actually take my students through the process of setting up a social media account, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And rather than watching the Facebook and Instagram videos on how to set up your privacy settings, I get them to go to WikiHow, because of course Facebook and Instagram and all those other sharing networks, they want you to share as much as possible. So they don't teach you really how to put your controls up to the highest settings. So WikiHow will do that. And also Kids Help Phone, they have these really great videos that you can click on to show you how to customize your privacy settings. So those are 2 really great places to go when you're setting up a social network. And here's some of my other favorites. TextEd is geared towards grade 7 and 8 students. And it gives teachers a series of safety lessons and helps guide students through, you know, appropriate texting techniques, and it teaches them life skills that allow them to you know, benefit from what is now a very public technological world. And all of the lessons on TextEd, it's great because it aligns with our curriculum expectations and outcomes for each province. My favorite part of TextEd, you can see just below it, is the acronictionary. So, you know, when students use text messaging lingo, it has a whole dictionary so you can look up what that text messaging lingo actually is. ConnectEd, I'm just going to skip down one, is actually, it's been put out by OFIA, and it has internet safety lessons for students in grades 4, 5, and 6. And it's really great, but they're also affiliated with cybertip.ca. And cybertip.ca, like most of us know, is where you can report online sexual exploitation of children. And it also has a really great section on internet safety. Other ones that I use for my older students is I'm back on, sorry.
Welcome back, Katie. Hang on.
Hi, sorry. I got kicked out.
that brief flash of, oh no, she's gone. Okay, yeah. You're back.
Sorry, I'm not sure where I finished, where I cut out there. The it can wait. Did you hear the it can wait part? Take the pledge. The next one is that. It's not. I don't know if you heard that part.
No, we didn't hear take the pledge or anything on the right side.
Okay, so that's good. Take the pledge. It's really neat because kids can go on. I use this for my older students, and they can take this little. It's a texting and driving simulator game, so they can see how difficult it actually is to text and drive, and then they can take the pledge to not do it themselves. And then I'm just going to skip down to the bottom where it's that'snotcool.com, and this site helps teens recognize when digital dating behavior becomes dangerous or abusive, and then how to deal with it. So that's a really good one. And for younger kids, I really like NetSmarts Kids. It has a whole bunch of games and activities that they can play as well. And for even younger, like ages 8 to 10, this is one of my favorites of all of them is Webonauts, and it's just a little a web original game for PBS Kids Go, and they have some fun exploring what it means to be a citizen in a web-infused, information-rich world. So pretty fun. This one's sort of essential, I think, for a lot of our teenagers right now, because if a picture of them has been released that's you know, a sext or something that's really inappropriate, if it has nudity and, you know, they're kind of freaking out about it, this is the website that they can go to right away if they don't want to go to an adult yet. And it's called Need Help Now, and it gives you sort of step-by-step instructions on what you can do about that photo and how you should deal with it, how you can remove it, how you can report it, how you can cope with it. It's a fabulous new website. As teachers and as a parent, these are some pretty important organizations. So if you're upset by something that you see, you know, on TV, or for me, I was really ticked off with that song, The Blurred Lines. I encourage people to go and report it and, you know, write a complaint. And these are some of the major organizations that you can contact to make your complaint. And I think if we're all citizens of this digital world and of this media world, I think it's our duty to do that. I had the opportunity a little while ago to be a part of this coalition of teachers and parents, and what we did is we created lessons for JK all the way through grade 12, and it has to do with media literacy. And in theory, every school got one of these CDs, but all the lessons are free, and there's some information for parents and for educators as well. Full units, full lessons, full assessments, and everything, all aligned with curriculum expectations. And they can all be found on the youthrelationships.org website, which is otherwise known as the 4th R. If anyone else uses that curriculum, you can find this CD and all of those resources there.
I'm going to jump in for 2 seconds there,
I got a
Katie,
chance to,
just because I know at the end of tonight's session, Siri will talk a little bit more. The 4th R folks have done OTF Connects webinars for us, and they actually have one next week.
All right. Oh, great. This next one here, this is a book that you would have to purchase, but I got a chance to edit it, and it's quite good because it's mostly about media creation, and it's got all handouts and projects and things that kids can do. And the website's down there, and I think Louise will post it. It's school@emp.ca, which is terrific too. If you're going to take away one website, I should work for these people because this is the website that you should go to. Other than the Media Smarts, this is my other favorite, and it's commonsensemedia.org. They've got awesome lessons for all different grades, and they also have a whole bunch of resources for parents too. I cannot tell you how terrific this site is. Let's say you wanted to show a movie in your classroom, for example. You can go on, type in the movie, and it will tell you explicitly. It'll tell you exactly what goes on in the movie. If it just says, you know, some sexual content, it will describe it for you. So it kind of helps in that previewing process. You know, obviously we're always going to watch the full movie before we show it in our classes, but it tells you exactly the content, what it's rated, but also then what the educator, students, experts, and parents would rate it. So, you know, this would be appropriate for a 10-year-old, and it actually gives you kind of a green light. This is the age that it would be appropriate for. So it's got great reviews and ratings for you as well. If you're looking for more documentaries, I would suggest going to the Media Education Foundation. They've got a ton of really great documentaries out right now, including Tough Guys and the Sexed Up Kids one. And instead of using YouTube in our classrooms, if you want something that's a little bit more friendly and you know, you're not going to be worried about what banners are going to be showing, this one's called Kiddios, and it's videos for kids, and I really like that one as well. And the Amanda Todd story has actually been made into a little bit of a graphic text here. It's like a little comic book, and it's through SOS Kids Online, and it's really great. And it's a magazine that you can subscribe to, and in this issue, what it does is it has a little follow-up article about Amanda Todd, and it tells about her story, and it tries to get students to, you know, it kind of nurtures their compassion, and it's a really great magazine. And I'm sure a lot of us have been on TED Talks and have watched a lot of TED Talks, and two of my favorites right now when it comes to media is this Tracking Our Online Trackers. And a lot of people bash video games, and so I try to find ones, you know, where they talk about positive gaming experiences. And this last one, this Gaming Can Make a Better World, was a really great presentation that Jane McGonigal did. And we're coming to the end here, but I mean, it is so hard to keep up with all of this stuff, and technology is always changing. And where I get all of my information from, a lot of the times, are these three places. Obviously, my students give me most of my information, but I'm on Mashable. They've got lots of really great articles and information about what's new out there. All My Faves, you have to check that one out, and Pop URLs. Those are some of my favorites. And of course, you can always check out my Pinterest page. I'm always updating new things all the time. And if later on, you know, a few days from now, you think, I've got a question, I've put my email address in there for you, so you can always contact me. And hopefully tonight's been informative, and you have some things that you can take away and use in your classrooms or in our educational worlds. And this is what I'm going to finish off with. It's just a cute little video, but it's a great analogy. I like to think of social media kind of as the Force, like Star Wars. It can be used for good or for evil, but the choice is kind of up to us and our students, the user. As teachers and parents, it's our job to sort of funnel them towards the light and use the Force, you know, for good. So I'm going to have you watch this little short commercial, and I want you to think about how we're the father in this video. We're the ones holding the keys, and we are the ones who are going to help guide our students to use the power of media responsibly. So this is our last little video here, so hopefully Louise will get that one up for us. So hopefully everybody got a chance to watch that one. But again, I'm just hoping that we can, as teachers, as educators, we can teach our kids how to use media in a responsible way, because it is very powerful. It is the Force, and hopefully we can guide them towards the light. Thanks so much for joining me tonight, and thanks for taking it easy on the rookie. It's my first time, and next time I would like it to be more interactive. I wasn't really planning for all these fun, cool features on Blackboard, but hopefully you've got some valuable information. I don't know if Louise needs, I'm here for some questions, if anybody has any questions or comments.
Okay, I'll speak here first, and just want to say thank you so much, Katie, for sharing so much valuable information and so many resources, and certainly giving us a lot to think about. how we can guide our students to think critically in their use of social media. I'm so glad you were able to join us tonight. For those of you here tonight, it's taken me 2 years to get Katie to join us, and I'm so happy that she says the next time. So hopefully, Katie, you will be able to do some more workshops for us next year, because I think this is such a just such a important topic, and to help teachers really guide the students and help them think. Thank to each of you for giving of your time to participate in tonight's webinar. Do take a few minutes. Louise will post, there it is, the slide with the tiny URL link there, where you can provide us with your feedback about tonight's session. We certainly appreciate your feedback and use it to help us guide and improve our programs. Also, do share the link at the bottom with your colleagues, and check out yourself the upcoming webinars. We've actually got 2 more this week, and 1 next week. Our last webinar is on June the 5th, and it's coming of age in the digital in the digital age with Shanna Burns and Ryan Grohl from the 4th R. So that'll be another very useful and helpful workshop in the area of media violence. Another announcement that I would like to make on behalf of OTF is that OTF will once again be hosting summer institutes this year, and registration is now open, so do visit the OTF website, and I'm sure Louise will put that link up so you can register for those for those workshops. So thank you all again. Have a good evening, and hope to see you again in the next 3 sessions that we've got coming. And Katie, thanks so much. Good night, everyone.
Thank you all. Good night.